Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we're going to talk about preferences, packet tracer preferences, and this episode is going to be an overview of the preferences and the relevant tabs. So let's just get started. So here we are in Packet Tracer. If we want to go to Preferences, we need to go to Options menu, and then under Options menu we have Preferences. Preferences are basically the very many settings that you want to use in Packet Tracer. So it's basically the settings that you have in Packet Tracer in terms of interface or administration or font or publisher certificates and many other things. So basically this is all settings that you want to set for your own preference and how you want to use Packet Tracer. As you can see in this part, there's a lot of user experience customizations. If you want certain type of sounds to be played or not, certain device model names to be shown or not. Then we have logging. You can actually log the command lines that you enter on the devices in Cisco Packet Tracer, so you can log them. You can actually use Packet Tracer in a different language other than English, which is the default one, but you can use it in other languages as well. You have also color scheme that you can change as well. And then we go to the administrative tab. You can actually log certain features of Packet Tracer, including some of the interface options that you have, where you want the Packet Tracer folder to write these settings, the changes that you're bringing to preferences here. Where do you want these settings to be wrote down, and where is the default user folder. They show and hide a lot of view. I would say these are options for view inside Packet Tracer, so you can hide the physical tab, or you can hide the GUI tab in devices, or show the wireless boundaries, or show the wireless color gradients, or hide them. Basically, if we go to font, it's all about font, the size of the font in CLI or in the tooltips, or in the router iOS text. If you want it to be black, what will be the background and everything about font. The miscellaneous tab is a mixture of many different settings that we will go through each one of them actually one by one later on. This is just an overview. The answer tree is related to Activity Wizard in Packet Tracer, and we will go through this as well later on. The custom interfaces, you can create custom interfaces for these type of devices that you have in Packet Tracer. So this is all about that. We will go through this as well. The publishers are actually certificates from trusted publishers that you have here. We will go through this part as well in details. An image cleanup, or I would say picture cleaner. Image in here means picture, not exactly like not like a iOS image or something, but rather pictures. So this is about pictures, and if your file has some type of pictures embedded inside it, so the pictures will be here that you can remove. We will go through this as well. So basically this was just an overview of the very many settings that you have available for you in Packet Tracer, but we will go through each one of them one by one in each episode, and I will go through each one of them for you, and you will get to know about this more and more. And that's it, everyone. I would like to thank you for being with me in this episode, and stay tuned for more. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we're going to talk about one of the settings that you find in the Packet Tracer preferences, and that is the show animation preference. So let's go and get started. So here I am in Packet Tracer. If I go to options, preferences, and then I have show animation here. So let's see what this option do for us. For this to work, first we need to have two PCs. I'll create the PC1, PC2, and PC3. I will give it a little bit of very simple configuration, IP configurations for PC3, 192.168.1.3. And then I go to PC2, I give it a little bit of IP configuration, 192.168.1.2, and that's it. We close this. Now usually you are in real-time mode, so instead of real-time mode we come to the simulation mode. We open the event list so that we can see what's happening. Then we create a very simple ping packet from PC2 to PC3. Then we play this. Play really means that the packets start traveling from one PC to another. I'm very sorry. We forgot to put a cable. So let's just put a cable. Okay. Let's go to real-time mode. Put a cable from here to here. How would these two PCs communicate if we don't have a cable? Anyway, let's just go back to simulation. So now if these two PCs they want to communicate, let me create another one. Okay, so now as you can see, if I just click this one, now the packet is in PC3 and PC2 and PC3. It's just going backward and forward between these two PCs, but we can't just really see any animation. But if I turn on this show animation effect, so you will see what happens. Let's just reset the simulation, create another ping packet from here to here, and then you will see that there will be an animation of the packet traveling from one PC to another. Play. As you can see the animation is happening. The ping is initiated from PC2 and to PC3, and then the reply goes back to PC2, and it constantly it is happening over animation. So it's a better visualization for somebody who wants to see this animation and they like it. I hope this has been informative for you, and thank you for joining me, and stay tuned and see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we're going to explore another option, which is playing sound in Packet Tracer. There is certain type of sounds when you do certain actions in Packet Tracer, like adding a device or connecting cables or going to menus. All of these things, they have certain type of sounds. So let's just go and see how it works and how you can turn off or turn on these sounds. So here we are in Packet Tracer. We go to the options menu, preferences, and then play sound. As you can see, this option is enabled for me. So let's see what is the effect of this option. I will close this window. Now if I try to drop a router to the workspace, you see the sound, and then another router to the workspace, the sound, and then I want to connect it with a cable. You see, if I go to the cables, now I want to use this cable. You see all of these sounds that you hear, you can actually disable them from here. So if you just go here and disable the sound, there will be no sound anymore. Whatever I do, go here or drop a router to the workspace, none of these actions will trigger any sound. Well, it's important sometimes to turn off the sound because it might have a performance impact on your computer. So if your computer is a slow one, the sound is actually making Packet Tracer for you to work very slow. So you can actually speed up the Packet Tracer performance by disabling the sound. Thank you very much everyone for being with me in this episode, and I look forward to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we're going to talk about one of the preferences, the ability to show the device model labels and the device name labels. So let's just get started and see how it works. Go to network devices. I will drag one device here, one device here, and then maybe a switch as well, and then I will make the cables. And now if I want to go to the options, preferences, you will be able to see that I'm able to show or hide the device model label. You can see now that it's showing that it's a router, and it's showing the model, each one of them, the ISR model routers, and the Cisco 2911 switch, and the Cisco 2911 router, and I can show or hide the device name labels as well. So as you can see, the names are getting hidden, or so as you can see, the names are hidden or they can be shown. Thank you very much everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we are going to talk about how to show port labels all the time. Make it on and show it all the time. So let me just give you an example. If I'm going to drag two routers on the workspace and then I want to connect them to each other, but then I don't know which ports were connected to each other because I used auto connect and the port was automatically selected, so I don't have that information which port was connected. So what I can do is that I can go to options, preferences, and then if I turn on this option, always show port labels in logical workspace, as you can see, the port labels will always show me which ports are connected, and this will be very useful. So let's just close this, add more devices like a switch, and then if I just use more cables, then it will be very easy for me to know that which of my ports are actually used on each one of these connections. As you can see, port gigabit 0/0/0 is used on this side, and port gigabit 0/0/0 is used on this side. So it will be very helpful for me to have this information readily available. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we are going to talk about auto cable. As you can see here, this option, automatically choose connection type, allows Packet Tracer to automatically select the cable type for you. For example, if I have a in device which is a PC and I have a switch which is a 2960 switch, and then I know that for this type of connection we usually need a copper straight through cable, but I'm just lazy, so I just let Packet Tracer select this cable type for me. So I will just go and let Packet Tracer decide for me, but I'm not allowed. Auto connect is disabled. So how we can resolve this issue is that to go to options menu, then go to preferences, and in here you can see that disable auto cable is selected. So we will just deselect this option. Now auto cable is enabled. Now if I go here, choose my auto cable and click on these two devices, the cable type will be automatically selected for me. Thank you very much everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another episode everyone. In this episode we're going to talk about imperial system and metric system, and if we want to change the measurements in Packet Tracer between these two type of systems. So how we can do this is to go to options, preferences, and as you can see I am using metric system. So if I uncheck it, it will become imperial. So let's see if really I'm using metric system. How I can show this to you is that if I go to physical view of the workspace, I go to environment. Which one is environment? I think this one. Yeah, okay. So let's see. So as you can see here, for example, I have meter, I have kilo, Pascal, I have kilometer per hour, this type of stuff, centimeter, degrees Celsius, and all of these measurements are all in metric system. So if I want to change this to imperial system, basically the American way of doing things, like using feet and mile and stuff like that, so I will just uncheck this, close, and then go to environment, and then you will be able to see that many of these measurements have changed to imperial, like foot, foot per second square, Fahrenheit, mile per hour, and all of this stuff has changed to imperial system. That's it everyone. Thank you for this episode. Stay tuned, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we're going to talk about align logical workspace objects. What does this preference do for us? So let's just get started. Now as you can see, this option is not checked for me. So if I go to the workspace and if I drag some routers, to 3 of them, but probably I would like all of these routers to be in one straight line. Maybe I'm creating a very nice and clean topology. I want to connect all these routers together, and I want to put like a switch in between. So how do I make sure that everything is aligned perfectly with perfect straight lines? This is where this option would be very useful. So if I go to preferences, align logical workspace objects, and check this option, now go back to workspace. Now Packet Tracer will give me these lines. You know, using these lines, these red lines that you can see, I can align my workspace, and then I can make sure that everything is pitch perfect. That's it everyone. Thank you for joining me in this episode, and I will look forward to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we are going to talk about one of the preferences, which is the show link lights. So let's get started. First I want to go to the workspace, logical workspace. Then I will drop a switch, and then I would need 2 PCs, PC0 and PC1, or probably even PC2, and then I would like to connect them all to the switch. As you can see, the link lights, these are called link lights. So the link lights show us the state of the interface. On the switch, because of the spanning tree protocol, currently the spanning tree protocol is running and doing some calculations. That's why the port is not fully up. But now, as you can see, this port went up and this port went up and this port went up. And this is all an indication that everything is going to work well. This can be shown by the link lights. But anyway, if I go to preferences and then I deselect this option, then you will not be able to see any of the link lights. I don't know why would somebody select or opt to do this, but this is how it is, and this is what you can do with this option. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we are going to talk about one of the preferences in Packet Tracer, play telephony sound. So let's see what does this preference do for us. Okay, I'm going to go to one of the labs that I've created before. I have two IP phones in here. Let me open the first one. I'll go to the GUI tab and then I will open the second one. I will bring it here so we can see both of them. So as you can see, if I try to call from this phone to this phone, so I'm trying to call, I will, okay, the phone was getting the IP address, so it took some time until it was able to get the IP address. I will call this phone from this one, so 54002. As you can see, we have a call from 54001, but there is no sound. If I try to disconnect the call, go back here to preferences and then enable this option, now I will be able to see that if I call from one of these phones to the other ones, I will have a sound. Why is the other one not showing? Okay, so if I try to call from this one, you see the sound? Do you hear the sound? It's quite loud. 54002. Okay, disconnecting the call. So this is what this preference does for us. I hope this has been informative and helpful for you, and I look forward to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about this preference. It's called Show Quality of Service Stamps on Packets. So let's see what it does for us. Let's go to the workspace. I have a small lab. These routers are configured with quality of service, especially this router. So let's go to simulation mode and try to play. And then you will be able to see that some traffic is initiated. If I just do this so that it's under my control, you can see this small indicator here. This is for quality of service. IP header has TOS field set. This is exactly what it means when you have that option enabled. And if we try to turn it off, that this small indicator will not be there. The small stamp, I would say, it's actually a stamp, right? So this stamp will not be there. If I try to open this packet, go to the details of this packet, you can see that I have the differentiated services field set for this packet. So quality of service is set, and that is why that small stamp appears on the packet. That's it everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we are going to talk about one of the preferences, which is the show port labels when mouse over in logical workspace. So if I have this preference enabled, then I don't have the option for this one. So as you can see, if I have this preference enabled, the port labels will be shown all the time. But if I just disable this one and have this one enabled, then the port labels will only show if I bring my mouse close to the port. So let's just see how it works. As you can see, now when I bring my mouse close to the port, the port labels start showing up. But if I bring my mouse away from the port and away from devices, the port labels stop appearing. So that's it everyone. I hope that you have found this episode useful, and I look forward to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we are going to talk about one of the preferences, which is the enable cable length effect. So this preference is enabled right now. So let's see how it works. Let's close the preferences. Then I want to create a switch in my logical workspace. And then I want to put a laptop maybe in here. And then I want to connect these two devices. As you can see, these two devices are connected and the ports have come up and they're working well. So the cable length actually doesn't have any effect if you're working in logical workspace. There is no cable length in logical workspace. It's not applicable for logical workspace, but it is actually applicable for physical workspace. So if I just move this away from the switch, wherever I put it, I can make this page as long as possible. It will not have any effect. But if I go to the physical workspace, and if I go to the corporate office, as you can see, here's the main wiring closet and here's the laptop. So if I open this, you can see this cable is going to the laptop through a conduit to corporate office. See, the distance for this cable is about 52 meters, which is a good distance for a Cat 6 or Cat 5 straight through cable, copper cable. So it will work, everything will work fine. But if I go back in my physical view and bring this laptop to somewhere else very far away, let's move this laptop, for example, move this instead of the corporate office, we want to put it inside the home city. Now if I go back, now as you can see, this laptop is inside the home city. It's very far away from the corporate office. Probably, I don't know, the distance. Oh, that's the distance, 1578 feet. That's a lot of distance. So if I go to the logical workspace now, as you can see, the link has gone down because the distance have become too long for a copper cable. And if I go to preferences and I try to disable this preference, now as you can see, the distance has no effect at all. Wherever we put the laptop in physical workspace, it will not have any effect for this connection, for this wire. The length of the cable will not have any effect. That's it everyone about this preference. I hope this has been informative for you, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about one of the preferences, which is the use CLI as device default tab. This preference is enabled for the time being. Let me just disable it for you so you can see what effect it has. Let's go back and let's drag a router. If I open this router, as you can see, by default, I'm always going to the physical tab of this device. But if I have this preference enabled, use CLI as device default tab, then the devices will always open in the CLI tab of the device. As you can see here, I'm directly redirected to this tab. That's it, everyone, for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we are going to talk about yet another preference, which is called Align Physical Workspace Objects. So let's get started and see what this preference does for us. I go to the logical workspace, but since our discussion was about the physical workspace, I will go to the physical workspace and then to corporate office, main wiring closet, and then I drag two laptops. One laptop here and one laptop here. As I tried to figure out, I could not find anything about alignment that you can do inside the main wiring closet. There's not much that you can do in terms of alignment. But what I found is that if we try to move these two laptops to intercity, move the other one to intercity as well. Now I'm going to go to intercity, and as you can see here, I'm in the intercity. If I zoom in, we have the two laptops here. And now in here, if I try to align them, there's no lines, there's no way that I can align them properly or perfectly. So if I go to this preference and check Align Physical Workspace Objects, then I will be able to align these devices using these lines and very straight lines, neat and clean. That's it, everyone, for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about logging and enable logging. And let's get started and see how it works. If I close preferences, drag a router on my workspace, open the router, wait for the router to boot up. Now I will try to enter a few commands to the router: enable, config t, exit, show run, and that's it. I think that's more than enough. Let's close this window and I go to preferences again, and then if I export the logs and maybe save it in videos, command logs. Now if I go to videos folder, and in here you will see that we have a text file that has recorded all of the commands that I have previously entered. As you can see, all of the commands are already in here. That's it, everyone, for this episode. I hope that this video has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next videos. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about the color schemes in Packet Tracer. So by default, we have the default Packet Tracer, but if I go to classic theme and let's see how it works. So the next color scheme will will take effect the next time I start Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay, so let's go and close Packet Tracer. No. Okay, let's close these folders as well. And then launch Packet Tracer again. Now, as you can see, we have the classic view of Packet Tracer, the way it used to look a few years ago. Yeah, maybe we can try another color scheme as well. Slate. Okay, close, close, relaunch. Okay, this is the slate view of Packet Tracer. That's it, everyone, for this episode. Thank you for being with me, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about this administrative tab in Preferences. So let's go to Interface Logging. To disable access to a particular interface, check the corresponding checkbox. So for example, if I want this interface tab to be locked, I can enable this option and then it's locked. Well, it's not locked unless if I close it and then if I go to preference again, and now as you can see it's locked. But anybody can just unlock it if they come here and they just uncheck this checkbox. But how we can prevent them to stop them from easily changing these interface locking options is to by set a password in here. So if I set a password ABC, and then I enable this password, and then I close preferences, then when I come to the preferences again, I see that the interface tab is locked and I want to open it. But can I open it? I go to administrative tabs and I'm asked for a password. Unless I don't know the password, I cannot, undo those locking interface options. That's it, everyone, for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about write options to PT installed folder. So, the changes that I have brought to the preferences, it will be only applicable for me, for my user, when I log into this computer. But if I want all of the changes that I have brought to preferences to be applicable for every user in this computer, then I can use this option. I need to write the preferences to the PT installed folder. So if I click write, it actually will not allow me unless I am an administrator. So you cannot write to Cisco Packet Tracer installed folder unless you are an administrator. So let's go back and close Packet Tracer and try to launch it as an administrator. Packet Tracer, and then right click and then run as an administrator. Well, right now I'm prompted by a user account control window, which you're not seeing, but I can see it. I'm clicking yes. Now if I go to options, preferences, administrative tab, and if I click on write, options successfully saved to Cisco Packet Tracer installed folder, and whatever preferences that I have changed in here will be applicable for all of the users that log in to this computer. That's it, everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about the user folder preference and preferences in Packet Tracer. So the user folder is where all of your settings, your configurations, your save files and device templates are actually saved for your user in this folder. So if you have noticed, even the location of this folder by default is inside your user home folder, which is for me is this one. So, but you can actually change this to wherever you want to. You can change it to maybe your pictures or music folder, and that's it. Next time, if you're saving a device template or a save file or any configuration or any settings that you change, all of those changes are going to be recorded in this folder. That's it, everyone, for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about this preference, which is called the Packet Tracer Skills Assessment. So PTSA files are actually some assessment files that you might have received from your teacher, and they create these assessment files and they ask you to do certain things when you open these files. So inside the file you will be asked to set IP addresses for these devices, or create a certain type of topology or something. It's basically an assessment file. So what is the effect of this preference is that this version of Packet Tracer is going to be registered for PTSA files. It means that if you receive a PTSA file from somebody else and you try to open it, it will open in this version of Packet Tracer. What do I mean by this version? I mean that, for example, I have other versions of Packet Tracer installed in my computer. So if I go to Program Files, you can see I have two versions of Packet Tracer installed. So which one of those versions is going to be used for my assessment labs? This version, the one that I have opened right now, will be registered for the PTSA files. That's it, everyone, for this episode. I hope you found this useful, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode, we want to talk about the base language of Packet Tracer, how we can change the base language for Packet Tracer. So by default, we have this default.ptl file, which is default. It is English language for us. But if we want to change the language for Packet Tracer, we need to find this PTL file. So I am going to the internet. I search for Packet Tracer language Chinese. I need the Chinese one because I'm very interested in Chinese. And then, here in GitHub, somebody has uploaded this PTL file. I can go there. I can use this Chinese 1.8.1.ptl file. This is the version of Packet Tracer, of course, and this is the PTL file. I go to here. I try to download. Okay, I've got this file. Now if I go to my downloads, I'm going to copy this file. Oh, let's copy. I need to get used to these icons in Windows 11. They were making me confused. Anyway, okay, copy, and then let's head to C drive. In Program Files, I am using this version, 8.2.1. I'm going to go to there, and then I will paste it in the languages folder, and then I'm going to paste it here. Continue. You will need to have admin permissions, of course. And then let's head back to Packet Tracer. I cannot see it yet. Let's close this. Let's go back to preferences again. Now you can see that I have the Chinese.ptl file. I can click on it and then I can change the language. Okay, it is telling me that I need to restart Packet Tracer. Okay. Close. Let's relaunch Packet Tracer. And now I have the Chinese version of Packet Tracer. As you can see, everything is so Chinese. I actually don't understand Chinese, so I don't know if it's correct or not correct, but that's the way it is. Thank you very much everyone for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we want to talk about yet another preference, which is the Show Hide tab. Here we have a lot of options to be able to show or hide certain UI customizations. So for example, hide physical tab. So if I click this one, it will hide the physical tab on device dialogs. So let's just try this one. Okay, this is it. I have selected this one. I'm going to here, creating a router, and then I don't have the physical tab. Let's go back and then uncheck. Let's head to the router again. Router is still booting, but you can see now that I have the physical tab for this interface once again. So if you're looking for something and you cannot find it, the best place to go is to Preferences and the Show Hide tab and see if something is hidden. For example, hide the GUI tab. This is very important if you have a IP telephone and you don't have the GUI tab. So if I go here and put a IP telephony, where is it in devices, IP phone, as you can see I don't have the GUI tab, but usually it's very important to have it. So what I can do is that to go here, show the GUI tab and then come back, and now I have the GUI tab, which allows me to enter a number or pick up the phone or something like that. So sometimes if you're not finding what you're looking for, always head to that preference and check if that feature is hidden or showing, or how it is. That's it everyone for this episode. I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we want to talk about some font preferences. So the first font preference that we want to talk about is the application global size. So if I try to, for example, for me the current one is 15, so if I try to increase this, you will see that globally everything in Packet Tracer, the font will become bigger, or the font can become smaller as well. So if I apply, as you can see, everything becomes bigger or smaller. So 15 is usually, or 14, 15 is usually the normal one for me. I will go back to my normal one. Now we go to CLI. You know that in the devices that we have, like routers and switches, we have this CLI mode where we can enter commands. And if you think that the font of the CLI is too small, you can always change it. Let's go to the default one and see how big or small it is for a router. As you can see, the router, it's booting up, and you can see the font, it's quite small, not easy for me to read. So I can change it by going to Preferences, Font, and then maybe I want to change a different font, and I want to increase the size as well to 15. Apply, and then if I go to CLI, now as you can see the font is quite big and I can see everything clearly. The next one is the tooltips. So the tooltip is this one. If I come here, and as you can see, this window opens for me, which gives me a summary of the device. This is called tooltips, and I can play with the font of tooltips as well. So if I increase, if I go to like 20, apply, and then go to the tooltip, you can see it's quite big now. The next thing we want to talk about here is that you can change the colors in the router iOS text, the router iOS background, PC console text, and other ones, which I will just play a little bit with router iOS text. I want the text to be red and I want the background to be black. Let's apply it and go and see in the router. As you can see now, the background is black and the font and the text is red. The last thing that I want to talk about is this reset button. So if you try to bring any changes here, change whatever font settings that you want to change, but if you want to go to the default Packet Tracer default again, you can just click reset and everything will go back to the default size and font. So okay, let me just increase my font again, which is the normal one for me, 15. That's it everyone for this episode. I hope to see you in the next episodes. Hello and welcome to another episode. In this episode we want to talk about preferences, and in preferences we want to talk about miscellaneous tab and auto file backup interval. This functionality allows Packet Tracer to back up your file every few minutes, every few interval that you allow it to. So we have 1 minute, 5 minutes, and increments of 5 minutes. For the time being I will set 1 minute and then I close this window and then I wait for about 1 minute for my file to be saved. Currently I'm not working on a file. Basically I haven't saved this Packet Tracer work or this file, so let's just wait and see what happens. Let me just for fun just put a router and just put something here just for the sake of it, and wait for about 1 minute, from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Okay, we have waited for about 1 minute, and now if I go to Preferences and Administrative tab, the user folder is where this file is going to be saved. So if I go to Music folder, here I am in the Music folder. This is the file that's saved for me, my file, unsaved file, with a .back, with a .back extension, unnamed .back. This is the saved file for me. But if I had this Packet Tracer file saved, let's say save it by a name, we will go to Music again. We will save it like a test lab name. We give it this name, we save it, and then we wait for about 1 minute, from 5 minutes to 6 minutes. Let's just wait. Okay, we have waited for 1 minute. Let's go to this Music folder, and then we can see that we have the test lab, but there's no test lab save yet. Let's maybe wait for a few more seconds. It might appear, or maybe just refresh. It's not saved yet. Let's wait for a bit more. Maybe because I have not brought any changes to this file. If I bring some changes, then it will be saved again. Okay, let's head back to this folder. As you can see now, I have the TestLab and I have the testlab.bak. This is the auto save file here, and as you can see, because I brought some changes, the file was automatically saved using this extension. That's it for That's it everyone for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another episode everyone. In this episode we want to talk about miscellaneous tab and the simulation buffer full action. So this preference allows us what will happen if the buffer becomes full. So the buffer is this event list that we have in the simulation mode. You can see that I'm in the simulation mode. I have the simulation panel, and if I try to have some filters, currently I'm just removing the IGRP, just allowing IPsec to be there, because there will be too many EIGRP packets and I don't want to see them all. So now if I try to run some packets, it's actually not easy. It will take quite some time for this buffer to become full. Now let's just wait and see when the buffer becomes full. Okay, now we can see that the buffer has become full. Packet Tracer is prompting me whether to clear the event list completely or allow me to view previous events. Let's just view previous events. I can even add more filters like EIGRP that I had removed before. Now I even have all of these EIGRP packets as well. Or I could have cleared the whole event list at the time, but I cannot do it now because I have to go through each one of these packets again, which will take me quite some time. But if we were in the preferences and in the miscellaneous tab, and if instead of prompt I had selected auto clear event list, the event list would have become clear by default. Or if I had selected auto view previous events, Packet Tracer would allow me to view previous events without prompting me. So that's it for this episode everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the coming episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode everyone. In this episode we want to talk about the miscellaneous tab and the simulation buffer behavior. So if I have this checkbox checked, which is the buffer filtered events only, only the filtered events will be buffered, but currently all of the events will be buffered. Let me show you how. If I go to the simulation mode and I have these two filters, which is the EIGRP and the IPsec, and I start running the simulation, as you can see I have IPsec and both EIGRP, and if I just remove one of them, maybe remove EIGRP, then I have the IPsec ones and they're running. But if I just want to view the EIGRP ones, I can click on it and they're always available, even though they were not there and I couldn't see them, but they were saved and they were buffered. That's why I can go back and I can enable EIGRP, and then I will be able to see all of the EIGRP packets. But if I had, let's reset the simulation mode and go to Preferences, Miscellaneous tab and check Buffer Filtered Events Only. Now if I remove EIGRP and I only have IPsec and I run the simulation, now if I try to enable EIGRP, there is no EIGRP packets for me. EIGRP packets were not buffered. That's it for this episode, everyone, and I hope this has been informative for you, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we want to talk about the miscellaneous tab and the proxy settings. So by default, Packet Tracer will always auto-detect whatever proxy settings that we have configured in Windows in our system. It will detect it and it will follow that proxy server. Let me show you how. So for example, if I have these proxy settings enabled in my system, let's set up a proxy server. I will turn it on. I will use this address, which is a loopback address, basically 127.0.0.1 port 80. I will save this, and now if I try to close this, reopen it once again, miscellaneous tab, it's not detected, but let's just restart Packet Tracer. Now, if I go to Preferences once again, in the Miscellaneous tab, you can see that Packet Tracer already detected this proxy server for me, and it already applied these settings here by itself. Now, I can always override these settings by using no proxy or an HTTP proxy, put my own proxy server like www.proxy.proxy.mydomain and put my whatever custom proxy server and then apply, and this proxy server will be applied for all network connections that Packet Tracer uses, except for multi-user. That's it for this episode, everyone, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we want to talk about the preferences about publishers. So in the Publishers tab, we can add or import the certificate of the trusted publishers that we have. For example, there are many certificates that are imported by default, which all of them belongs to Cisco Networking Academy, and they are imported by default. So any type of file, which could be EX apps or script modules or PKA, PKT, PKZ files, that is signed with any of these certificates by Cisco, and if you try to import or open any of these files, they will be opened and you will not get any security prompts or anything because they are trusted. But for example, I want to add a certificate from Microsoft which I have downloaded in my download folder. This is a certificate from Microsoft. I want to add it. As you can see, it's a Microsoft Root Certificate Authority 2011, and I have put it in the untrusted publishers. So that means that if I try to import a file which is created by Microsoft, it will be blocked. It will not be opened because I have put it in the untrusted publishers. So if you want to work with an organization or with a course or with another academy, and if you want to use their files and want to use their open these files in Packet Tracer, probably it's a good idea to always add their certificate here in Packet Tracer. That's it, everyone, for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we want to talk about one of the preferences, which is the image cleanup. The image cleanup means to clean images. That does not mean iOS images or something like that. It means pictures. Let me show you how it's done. For example, I have a router here in my workspace. I click on the router, it's booting up, I go to the physical tab, and I want to customize the icon in the logical view. So I browse and I go to the packet tracer installed folder, art, and then I find something. For example, I find this lock icon, and then I change this router's icon to a lock icon. Now if I close and I save this file, I will save this file in videos. I will name it like a packet trace image. Now this icon file is also saved within that file, and it has increased the size of that PKT file. Maybe I have changed my mind. I want to go to the logical view. I want to reset this icon back to the default, which now you can see it's back to the default. Now if I go to preferences, I will see that I still have these images embedded in the saved file. But maybe you have a lot of images here that are saved inside of a file, and you do not want that file to be extra large. As you can see, the objective of this preference is that any images that is saved inside a packet tracer file, you can delete those images so that the file size is reduced. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to delete all of these files because we are not using them anymore. That's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this episode has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode, everyone. In this episode we want to talk about one of the preferences in miscellaneous tab, which is the show device dialog taskbar. Let me show you what device dialog taskbar means. So if I have a bunch of devices and I open each one of them, I do not close them but rather minimize. I will minimize this one as well, and I will open and minimize this one as well. Now if I go to preferences, miscellaneous tab, and show device dialog taskbar is enabled. Let me enable this for you. As you can see here in the taskbar, I will see the open device dialogs. So let's close preferences. Now if I open this one and minimize, and open this one and minimize, and open this one and minimize, as you can see, I will be able to switch between all of these devices easily. Switch to this, to this, to this. Instead of going to the real taskbar and looking into these devices, I can basically switch between devices here in the taskbar in Packet Tracer, and it kind of makes things easy for you. That's it for this episode, and I hope to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode we want to talk about preferences, and in preferences the custom interfaces tab. So the custom interfaces tab allows us to control which script should be added by default to the associated device, and these scripts can add additional functionalities and features to that device. Let's for example add a script to switch. Let's add instructions, and let's go and close this window. Now if I add a switch to the workspace and I open this switch, you will be able to see that I have this additional tab already included in the switches, and this additional tab can add additional functionalities to this device. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about the administrative tab and choosing a password for the administrative tab. So basically, whenever we want to lock the administrative tab using a password, then we can choose a password for the administrative tab. For example, ABC, ABC, and now I have enabled this password. Now if I close this window, go back to the options preference, and when I'm trying to open the administrative tab, I will be asked for a password. If I don't know the password, I cannot access the administrative tab. Now I want to enter the password ABC, and now I have the ability to open this tab. Now let's disable it because I don't need it for my use. That's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned.